So hey everyone, and in this video we'll be creating our documents in MongoDB. So in the last video we actually covered how to create and delete our database and collections. So today what you have to do is, once you create a collection, you have to actually add documents. That means add different users, different products into a single collection, right? Suppose we have a collection of users. Okay, so creating simply means you are registering some users. Okay, suppose you have a front end, which is again register page of your front end. What you would do is you would take that data register, and I'm talking about front end. Okay, ft, I'm sending this data to my backend, so my backend would be having that data, and then I would be saving that data to my database. Okay, for this we actually need the create operation. That means I would be having a JSON object and I would be saving it to my database, right? I would be saving it to my database. So that's what we are talking about, the create documents. So right now we are using Mongo shell, Mongoose, and in future we would be using the same logic in our Node.js. That means same commands in Node.js, right? So now let's continue with the logic, and what we are gonna do is we are gonna create a temporary database. You can see I actually deleted a database in the last video for students. So let me just first of all clear, and let me just say we have a collection. So we would be actually creating a database first of all, and I'll just say, suppose if you want to create a database, you have different commands, but we have a simple command, and I would just show that by simply typing use, and you can simply type your db. First of all, by the way, you can see that I pressed upward and downward arrow to get previous and next commands. Okay, so if you want to get the history of commands, you can obviously press upward arrow. You would always get history of commands in any case if you are using any terminal, not only just MongoDB. If you are using any terminal, if you press upward and downward arrow keys, you would get the history of commands easily. Okay, try to use that, you would have your benefits, right? So now suppose you need to just create a database. So I would just create a database, and its name would be, suppose, my db1. Okay, so I'll just name it like this. I'll just clear this. Now I would just create a collection, so it's simply like db dot create collection. Okay, create collection, and let's say its name is user. Okay, so users actually. So I'll just create the collection, and you can see it's created. So now if I write show dbs, that means in a database list my db1 is actually here. Inside this we have collections, so if I write show collections, okay, so you can see we have collections here. Okay, so inside my db1 we have created a collection named as user, right? So now what I would do is I would simply try to create an object inside this collection. That's actually known as an insert operation. So first of all, you must be inside some database where you have a collection named as user, right? So I'm inside my db1 where I have a collection named as user. So I would simply write db dot, now here in whatever collection you want to add the data, you have to write the collection name. So my collection name is users, right? Then after that I would simply write insert one. Okay, insert one would actually allow me to add one user at a time. Similarly, we have one more command named as insert many, but let's first of all see what's insert one. Now inside insert one, since we are using MongoDB, so obviously you'd be saving data which is in BSON format, that means binary form of our JSON. So you would be providing data in JSON format. Later on MongoDB would convert it into its binary form and save it. So here I would provide my data into JSON. So if I leave it empty and just write it like this, so an empty object would be created. So don't do this. So I would actually add some data inside this. I would simply say, suppose we have some field, like I would just say name, and suppose I have a name, and I'll just name it as, suppose, Harshal. Okay, and suppose we have one more field here, so just have to pass comma, and I would also pass email of that user. So I would just say, suppose my email is virajj014@gmail.com, and one more thing, suppose I would just provide my password. So right now I would be providing my password in normal format. You can assume later on we would be hashing this password when we save this password into our database later on using MongoDB, but right now just save the password normally. That means I'm just providing the actual password, saving that data into my database, but this is not the actual thing, right? You would be hashing the password later on, then save the data into a database using Node.js. But right now I'm just suppose I'm just saving this data into my database. Okay, so now if I just hit enter, you can see an object is created. So you can see auto generated ID would be there. So whenever I told you in last video, whenever you just create an object, automatically an ID would be generated. You don't need to do anything. Okay, so that's how an ID would be generated. But suppose if I try to add one more user, suppose the user's name is this time Viraj. Okay, and now if I just hit enter, you can see it's there. Suppose I try to do one more thing. Suppose I would just add a user whose all the fields are same, exactly same. Let's see what happens. So you can see all fields are same user. So you can see it's still done, because users fields can be same, everything can be same. But you can see now I created this user. Okay, this is in my database. Similar details are also available in my database. It's totally fine, it's totally fine. Okay, if you add some fields, like later on I'll be adding some filters like email must be unique, things like that. Later on we'll learn that, but right now I've just said that even all the details are same, you can still add that user again into your database. Now suppose you added the users. Okay, you added the users. So I want to just get the data, right? I want to get the data, how many users have I added. So for that you simply write db.data.find. This is actually also used in the read operation, where you are just getting the data. So you actually it's not the data, it's actually db.users. Okay, you need to write your collection's name. So inside this collection I want to find all the data. So you are just saying inside this collection give me all the objects. So you can see it's giving me an array of my objects, that means my documents. So remember, initially I created an empty document, so this is what it looks like. So it's empty, right? Later on we'll delete this, but yeah, you can see each object has a unique ID. Now suppose what will I do is I would simply say one of my object would be having a duplicate ID. So let me just copy this. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll just copy this, Control C, and now what I'll do is I'll just create a document, but this time all the fields are, suppose even if the fields are different, let me just try to add different fields. For example, I would just say we have a user named as user1, and suppose password is something else, email is something else. Okay, password is something else. Okay, so you can see that now I have chosen an ID which is already available in my database. So that's why it's not recommended to add ID by yourself. Database would automatically generate an ID. Okay, so right now I'm just adding an ID. So now if I just hit enter, you can see that we have an error, that is duplicate key error. That means the ID which you are trying to add is already there into your database. Suppose if I add some unique ID. Okay, if I just add some unique ID, suppose if I want to add my custom ID, I can do this. So I would simply write 123. If I did this, so you can see it must be a 24 hex string. Actually it must be something else. So if I write I think if I write like this, it would work. So you can see, yes, it must be a 24 character string, not more than that. So you can see that now it's added successfully. That means I can add my custom ID, but that must be unique. Okay, that must be unique, right? So now if I try to get the details, so you can see if I want to get all the users, so you would get all the users. This operation is what? This is actually a read operation, where you are reading the data from database. This operation was what? Insert one was what? Create operation. Now guys, what did we do is we simply inserted a user, right? But if I want to insert many users, so what I can actually do is instead of insert one, I can use a command that is insert many. Okay, so I can actually use a command which is insert many. Okay, insert many. Now suppose I added one user. Similar to this I can add another user, but this time since MongoDB provides flexible schema architecture, so you can skip some fields or you can add extra fields. For example, this time I'm just going to say that my name is suppose HARSHAL. Okay, and this time I'm not providing email, instead I'm providing age. Okay, so MongoDB would accept that there is no issue if you are not providing any kind of filters. Later on we'll learn about filters and validations. That means if email is not provided, return an error, email must be required, email must be unique, like that. But right now I'm just assuming that if email is not provided, then that's totally fine. If email is not unique, then that's totally fine. Similarly for password or username, whatever you like. So right now I'm just adding two objects. One is Viraj, whose email is this. Actually, let me just say we have some user whose name is Harshal123, that would be better, and whose age is 12. Now if I hit, you can see doc must be, actually the format is wrong. The format must be an array. Okay, so you are simply saying that you must be providing an array. Okay, so it must be an array, right? Inside an array you are providing multiple objects, that's what it says. So yes, now it would work properly. So you can see I've added two documents whose ID is this 477478, right? So now if I get data, you can see that one is created, another one is created, right? So you can see both of them can exist together. You can see, although this is having different fields, this is also having different fields. Age is here, age is not here, but they can exist together because MongoDB provides flexible schema. Although you can add some strict rules, later on we'll see that, but right now you can see that data is added successfully and you are able to get that data easily. Okay, so guys, now today we learned about the basic create operation, that is we learned about insert one and insert many in MongoDB collections. That means you can insert different documents inside a collection, that is a user's collection. We added different documents, right? We also know how to get all the data of a collection using the users.find. That means your collection name dot find. Okay, db.collection name dot find. It would give you all the documents, all the data of that specific collection, right? So that's how you can actually get this. So now in this video we covered the create part. In the next video we are going to focus on the read part. That means how you are going to read the data. Okay, that's very important. That means, are you going to read it in ascending order, descending order, or you are going to apply some logical operators? Things like that are very important. So in the next video we are going to cover the read operations very easily. Okay, so I hope you understood this video. I will see you in the next one. Till then, have a good day. Bye bye.